At the age of 93, Rita Moreno just revealed the truth about Marlon Brando. The discovery of him in bed with another woman prompted her to attempt suicide by taking his pills. Moreover, she claimed that Elvis had an affair with her before ending their relationship after just 2 dates. The doctors performing the illegal abortion nearly killed her. Rita is finally revealing everything, including which renowned director raped her while she was an actress, after decades of Hollywood covering up the crimes. Rosa Dolores Alverio is the birth name of this Puerto Rican woman who came into this world in Humacao on December 11, 1931. She was the youngest of 3 daughters in her impoverished family. Her parents' names were Juan Antonio Garcia and Rosa Maria Duran. Trujillo Alto was so tiny that it couldn't even support a hospital when they were living there. Because of this, she was born in Humacao to her mother. Trujillo Alto was a simple yet challenging place to call home. When Rita was 5 years old, everything began to change. What her mother decided would have an impact on their lives. She gathered all of their belongings and departed from Puerto Rico. Rita accompanied her to the Big Apple. They boarded the SS Carabobo without bothering Rita's dad or little brother. It was a challenging journey. The rumors that her father was unfaithful only served to heighten the anguish of their separation. The family split was never intended to provide her an equal opportunity. Nothing about New York was familiar. The verdant countryside and balmy tropical breezes were Rita's childhood home. A cityscape of gray buildings and busy streets now greeted her. A chill pervaded the air. It was the complete antithesis of the Wizard of Oz moment, as she would later describe it. She felt as if she had lost her way as she stepped into a world devoid of color. The first winter was the most painful for her. For her, it was a first encounter with snow. What she saw was frigid, damp, and unappealing, contrary to her idyllic imagination. How shocked she was remained a vivid memory, even after all these years. However, snow was merely one of numerous shifts. Due to their language barrier, she and her mother had difficulty communicating. Doing mundane tasks became exhausting. People were cruel to them, and Rita experienced a sense of being an outsider for the very first time. She felt unwelcome at school because of the racism she encountered, and it wasn't just from adults. After relocating to the Bronx, they shared a cramped room with relatives. It was strange and cramped to live in New York. The cuisine was a whole other story. Apple pie and Boston baked beans were served to her after her childhood diet of rice and beans. It all looked weird. She persisted through all the challenges. She started dancing classes at the tender age of 6. Paco Canino, Rita Hayworth's uncle, taught her Spanish dance steps. At first, it was just something she did, but her talent for it soon became apparent. She always felt comfortable on stage, even as a little girl. She used to love dancing for her grandpa in Puerto Rico. Even in New York, she experienced the same joy while performing. People started to take note of her talent soon after. At the tender age of 9, she performed in her first formal exhibition. A bar in Greenwich Village was the setting. Back then, it was unusual for a kid to behave that way, but that was then. Everything began that night. By the time she reached her early teens, she had already begun performing at bars across the city. At night, she would sometimes traverse New York City by herself, armed only with her ferocity and resolve. She was doing it not merely for her own benefit, but also that of her loved ones. At the age of 17, everything changed once more. At a Spanish dance performance, an evaluator noticed her and thought she was fantastic. He arranged to meet with Elle. The man in charge of MGM Studios was S.B. Mayer. As far as Hollywood men go, Fred Mayer was one of the most powerful. New York's Waldorf Astoria Hotel was the site of the gathering. Compared to the Bronx, it was completely different. Standing beside her mother, she patiently awaited Mayer's arrival. A single glance was all it took for him to exclaim, "My God, she's like a Spanish Elizabeth Taylor." The deal with MGM for Rita Moreno was immediately sealed. When I arrived in Hollywood, it was as if I were entering a dream. The fact that she was standing on the same lot as the locations of so many well-known films was unbelievable to her. The set became her second home because she was so overjoyed. Even the studio cafeteria seemed enchanted. This was her first lunch with roast beef and gravy, apple pie, and Boston baked beans. She had never attempted any of these things previously. What followed, however, was considerably more severe. She was in the middle of her meal when Elizabeth Taylor and Lana Turner entered. Her body went into a paralyzed state. Elizabeth Taylor was someone she admired for a long time, even down to the shape of her eyes. She mimicked her perfectly. Taylor even used a waist trainer to achieve her signature figure. Hollywood, though, had its own set of regulations, and Rita would later confess, "I thought I would wet my knickers." The Americans didn't know her real name because it was so foreign. The studio staff unanimously decided to rechristen her Rita Moreno, taking inspiration from both her stepfather's surname and the actress Rita Hayworth. She was reluctant to do it at first, but saw no other choice. Following their regulations was a requirement of her employment. From the beginning, Hollywood viewed Moreno as a blank slate, someone capable of playing any foreign role. It made no difference that she was Puerto Rican. Her film credits include Pagan Love Song, 1950, The King and I, 1956, and other films in which she played Polynesians, Burmese, and Egyptians, among others. They darkened her skin as part of their job to make her look the part. The corporate world was more concerned with making her fit their idealized extraterrestrial image than with her authenticity. She dubbed these roles in the plays Dusky Maiden in the end. They were often flat, uninteresting people who merely had odd and attractive features. She received consistent praise for her 1961 Oscar-winning performance in West Side Story. Within the industry, her only identity was that of an ethnic performer. She experienced highs and lows at the outset of her career. Her debut role was as Rita Moreno in the 1950 film So Young, So Bad. 2 years later, in 1952, she landed her breakout role as Zelda Zanders in Singing in the Rain. For once, her role wasn't cookie cutter. She had a fleeting moment of success when she collaborated with Gene Kelly and Debbie Reynolds. After that, nothing changed. In Hollywood, she kept landing the same roles. She portrayed Tup Tim, a young woman ensnared in an arranged marriage, in the 1956 film The King and I. Among her early films, this one became her most famous. Despite the film's commercial success, Moreno thought it was yet another disappointment. "I didn't find that part interesting. All she could do was appear lovely and sad." Yul Brynner, who portrayed the film's protagonist, found Tup Tim bland. What really got under Moreno's skin was the fact that she had to tone down her complexion to play a character who wasn't even her relative. Hollywood was more concerned with making sure she looked weird enough than with getting it right. After more than a decade since her last film, Rita Moreno's career took a dramatic turn with West Side Story. At 29 years old, she arrived on set on December 13, 1960, unaware that this role would become legendary. She plays Anita, the feisty and astute girlfriend of Shark Gang boss Bernardo. The role required exceptional performance in acting, singing, and dancing. Even though Moreno had been dancing since the age of 9, the movie routines were the most challenging for her. For 3 months, she and Jerome Robbins worked out every move 12 hours a day. Performing the America Dance on Top of the World was a real challenge. The entire 7-day filming process took place in the scorching heat of Los Angeles. On the 37th take, Moreno sprained her ankle. However, she persisted. Unfazed by the discomfort, she persisted and completed an additional 25 repetitions. Her popularity skyrocketed. Her performance as Anita elevated her from supporting role to protagonist. It was unusual for Latina parts at the time, but she gave her a voice, personality, and depth that no one had before. Being a part of West Side Story wasn't always a pipe dream, though. The group's real Puerto Ricans were few, and Moreno was one of them. The majority of the Sharks' performers were white actors who wore brown face paint to give the impression that they were Latino. It was embarrassing, but normal in Hollywood. Makeup artists applied the same dark shade to every Puerto Rican, regardless of their skin tone. When the time was right, Moreno spoke up. "My face looks so black, why must I wear this?" Her tone was one of disapproval. In an angry outburst, the makeup artist asked, "What are you, a racist?" Her expression betrayed her shock. She remained silent. She stated in a 2021 interview, "I was so shocked that I shut up because I didn't know what to say," in reference to her shock. But that wasn't the last of the issues. The actor's body was under a lot of strain from the job. Temperatures soared over 100 DEGF 37 DCC while filming America. 8 DEGC. Despite the blisters that had formed on her arms and shoulders from spending 5 days in the sun, Moreno persisted. She was prepared to go to any lengths to ensure the flawless completion of this film because she understood its critical importance. The Santa Monica Civic Auditorium hosted the 34th Academy Awards on April 9, 1962. That night, a paradigm shift occurred. Moreno was present at the ceremony that announced the nominees for Best Supporting Actress. The sound of her name rendered her immobile. It was a huge deal when she became the first Latina to ever win an Academy Award. "I can't believe it," she exclaimed as she strode up to the stage, her expression betraying her apparent distress. "My goodness, that's all I have to give you." Her 15 seconds of speech were among the shortest in Oscar history, consisting only of that. That victory was pivotal. The next Latino actor to win an Oscar, Benicio del Toro, would not do so for another 38 years. There was hope that Moreno's victory would shake up Hollywood. But she discovered a tragic truth in the months that followed. The casting calls she had been receiving were for the same old stereotypical Latina roles on Spitfire, complete with the same accents. As Anita, there was no indication of her depth. She displayed remarkable courage by taking a 7-year hiatus from filmmaking. Parts that would have made her appear like a cliché were ones that she declined. Even though it was dangerous and might have cost her her job, she refused to play parts that were disrespectful to her culture. If Hollywood wasn't prepared to cast her in better roles, she was willing to wait. The Night of the Following Day, starring Marlon Brando, brought her cinematic career full circle in 1968. Poppy and Marlowe, co-starring James Garner, were released the following year, and she had roles in both. Not only was she a Hollywood star, but she was also a Broadway star, having starred in 1969's Last of the Red Hot Lovers and 1970's Gantry. Then there was the highly successful, hilarious, and action-packed film The Ritz. Her performance as the fiery Puerto Rican singer Gucci Gomez left an indelible impression. For her role in 1975's Best Featured Actress, she took home the Tony. She continued to perform on stage thereafter. She made her stage debut in 1985 as the title character in a women-only staging of The Odd Couple in Chicago. She received the Sarah Siddons Award, which is presented to the city's top stage performers in recognition of her efforts. However, not everyone had a good recollection of that program. Colleague Sally Struthers later admitted in an interview that working with Moreno had been challenging. She claimed that Brenda Vaccaro's arrival and her departure from the play improved matters as Moreno had been cruel. Moreno became a household name in the 1970s after appearing on television for the first time in 1971. Between the years 1973 and 1977, she starred as the title character on the public television series The Electric Company, which was run by children. She famously exclaimed, "Hey, hey, you guys," as the opening line. She portrayed Millie the Helper, the troublemaking Pandora, and the irritable director Otto. It was an entertaining and innovative approach to teaching children to read, and the show was a smashing success. Simultaneously, she maintained her career in film. She made her stage debut in 1971 with Mike Nichols's Carnal Knowledge. Art Garfunkel, Candice Bergen, Jack Nicholson, and Anne Margaret were all in it. Moreno played the role of Louise, a prostitute. They, the figure, and Nicholson played Dice. A lot of people thought the film was really bold considering when it came out. Richard Lester's 1976 film adaptation of the smash Broadway musical The Ritz featured her reprising her role as Guji Gomez. Jerry Stiller, Jack Weston, and Dr. Murray Abraham are all featured in the film. The plot was wild and hilarious, and the show-stopping performance was delivered by Moreno. According to Charles Champlin, a critic for the Los Angeles Times, the film was unexpectedly entertaining and featured excellent acting from Moreno and Weston. She won a Primetime Emmy for her 1977 appearance on The Muppet Show, where she was recognized for her outstanding performance in a variety or music program. The world shifted after that victory. She became just the third person in history to win 4 major acting awards at once: an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony. Prior to her, only Richard Rodgers and Helen Hayes had accomplished this. That wasn't all.